Many of those.
Got a lot of rotary.
Yeah, he does daisies and he does the John Deere. The John Deere is the one that sells.
Well, there's a place up there on top of the hill that has two daisies on the fence post.
I have one daisy. I have a.
Well, I'm told, right up on top of the hill. Inside was the top of the gate.
Oh, no, that's not me.
Right on top of the hill.
Guy, that's the guy.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah, one day or. You can be.
Good. Well, it keeps them busy, huh?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Good.
Valerie, can you indicate?
Whether you can hear us or not.
Hi.
There will be background noise right now because we haven't started. But if you could raise your hand, let us know if you can hear me.
Okay, is that us?
It's the current, I think it's in current.
Jefferson County?
Let's see here. I think it's the state.
Hi. How are you? Good to see you. Okay, we're gonna allow you, hi guys. We're gonna allow you. Make a brief presentation. There's not gonna be any questions or answers. You're gonna do that at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, we did have two little things to bring in, those are props. Should we just bring them in?
Yeah.
And it's heat in there. It's already at 50 degrees. Look at the tank. It's- And I've just been there. No.
Run into a lot of things.
I turned the water off. If you call it, well, it made the difference, I guess.
You hear me? Izzy, can you hear me?
Comes up in the corner. It comes out. Definitely will. She was in there last night. Gotta teach people how to-
This is station
Three.
This is three.
No, it's good. I mean, definitely fill the gap. Especially if you're gonna be, but you can still share. Right? You still have one. Board meetings, are they the next Thursday, right after ours? Auxiliary board meetings are the Thursday following?
They're not as regular as. Dee would do.
Yeah, I'll have to go ask him. 'Cause I thought I had written it down.
To those in the audience, you guys have information that you're able to hear us. Either a thumbs up from those who are sharing video or a verbal thumbs up. Can members of the audience hear us? That's kind of.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Members of the audience, can you hear us? If I could get confirmation. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Valerie. And if I could get confirmation of one attendee who has dialed in by phone, if you could just identify your name, I want to make certain that.
Oh, no.
Expecting that. If he- Deb, we have Deb.
Hey, folks, we're ready to start the meeting, please. We will start off by welcoming everyone that's here. Thank you for coming. And we start with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll have the roll call. Steve Green,
Here.
Dave Primer, Chris Creech.
Present.
Is Niffy on the?
I am
online?
here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, we can hear you very well.
Great.
All right, and Chief Benson.
Present.
Is here. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, please. I have one request for an addition to discuss communications policy.
Okay, and where would you like that placed?
Could we place that at 4.3 beneath attorney consultation update,
So you want it right after that?
please?
Okay, so a website will move down to 4.4. And communications. Okay, anything else? Are there any conflicts of interest of the board related to any agenda items?
None.
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 Okay. All right, let's go to the approval of the January 19th meeting minutes. I would like to add that we passed a motion for giving structure to the minutes, how they should be produced. And I don't think they've been resubmitted, Steve. The January 19th haven't been resubmitted.
When you guys rejected my minutes.
Right. Well,
I
but
didn't
you could
Why?
resubmit them. You could have resubmitted them and you didn't, right?
Well, I'm not
Okay.
many times you do the
We'll
same
carry
thing.
it. Well, we have guidelines now.
Yes, I see you guys.
10 pages don't fit in the guidelines.
Whatever you say that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Approval, so we'll hold those, carry those over.
What is the plan to produce the minutes? Mr. Green, are you going to produce the minutes following the new guidelines?
I got no idea.
You-
No answer for you.
Well, are
I'm
you,
completely against those new guidelines. You can't tell who's talking. I don't have audio like you have. You can do it, Chris.
So you're delegating me the position.
Not willfully, but you're taking it over.
I would submit that if Mr. Green is electing not to create the minutes, as is the duty of the treasurer, that he resign the post of treasurer.
Secretary.
Excuse me, secretary, that's correct. Secretary.
So you're handing them off.
Not willingly. I'm
No,
not gonna do the way you said.
The way that the board elected to do. So I don't want to fight either. You're the secretary. You have the ability to delegate for anyone that you want to do the minutes. Are you delegating the minutes to someone else?
This is Friday, I'll think about that.
oh my God.
Look, this is a waste of time. Steve,
I'll-
either you're going to comply with what the board has voted to do, and if you refuse to do that, then you're in dereliction of duty as the secretary, and you need to resign the post of secretary. If you're simply going to say that if I don't agree with something the board votes to do, I'm not going to do it, you're ostensibly, just refusing to serve the community as you swore an oath to do. And if we need to go review the bylaws about what your responsibilities are, then we can do that.
I have a higher calling, that's the Constitution of the United States and the First Amendment.
What does that have to do with?
Your minutes aren't clear, they're too obscure.
So
Nobody
is
can
that a-
figure out what
We'll
they're
take that
saying.
as a no, Steve. You take, well, are you gonna continue with the minutes? Are you
I'll
gonna
do them
turn
the way
it?
I was doing them. Like I've done them for 4 or 5 years.
Steve, the board has voted to do the minutes according to that resolution and to publish a full recording and post it to the web for everybody. So if you think that the minutes are unclear, there is a recording of every meeting that will be posted online for all to view. So this concept of you can't tell who's saying what, this is nonsense, okay? And you waste everybody's time. So we're gonna move on. We're not gonna, Steve, we may just need to go ahead and hold a vote to remove Steve as secretary and appoint somebody else because he's refusing to actually perform the duties of the secretary.
The audio recordings aren't audible. The connections up here are not good enough to hear them. Thus, you're voting in something that's basically to obscure what happens in the meetings. I understand why, hold on. I understand why you want to do that after the January 19th minutes and after the September 1st, 2022 minutes. But I don't want to be party to that.
Okay.
So if you want to vote to remove me.
Then quit the board, Steve. If you don't want to be part of doing what the board votes for, quit.
Right, we're gonna move on. I'm going to make a motion that we not approve the January 19 minutes until they're corrected and fall within our guidelines.
Well, if we're going to fall within our guidelines, our minutes are supposed to be produced within 3 days of a minute. We are now into March. We have no January minutes. I assume we're going to have the same conversation on our February minutes. So we need to, as a board, to comply with our bylaws. Otherwise, we put our board in jeopardy, is to figure out who is going to produce the minutes. Mr. Green,
Submit the minutes.
will you resubmit the minutes according to the guidelines that are published? You have a template.
Submit the minutes, I've already submitted twice.
But they have to be in these guidelines, or don't bother resubmitting them. We're not gonna pass them.
I
Do
resubmitted.
you want a copy?
Oh, I know what you're doing.
I second the motion to submit the minutes as written. Motion,
sorry.
motion is on the table.
What is the motion that he's going to read?
Resubmitted the minutes.
That he's going to,
I second the motion as written.
I need the clarification on the motion. We've had several copies of motions distributed. Do you have a date of the motions? Do you have a revision of the motions? Making a motion to approve minutes that we don't know what they are, I don't believe is a good motion. Do you have a specific copy of the motions that you're at?
Make the motion to accept the January 19th minutes as written.
okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the January 19th minutes as submitted? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed?
No,
Aye.
It does not pass.
I heard what Murphy saying, I couldn't hear it.
Nay.
I said nay. I move that we remove Secretary Green from his post as secretary for non-compliance with submitting minutes according to his duties as secretary and is voted upon by this board.
Second, the
second?
motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to call the motion. All in favor of removing Mr. Green as secretary for non-compliance?
No, it's a fact of
All in
life.
favor?
You just don't like the.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Nay. Okay, 3 in favor, 2 against. We will come up with possibly a recording secretary, which we, within our bylaws, we can do that, but we'll deal with that at a later time.
I will produce the minutes for
Oh.
January and February. I'm not taking on the duty of secretary. I'm
Right.
treasurer. I will maintain do that. Unless another secretary is appointed, I will take care of minutes until that time,
Okay.
if that pleases the board.
Is
Thank
that a
you.
motion? And because I'll second that.
Sure, I motion to produce minutes for January, February in each meeting moving forward.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of Chris Creech taking over the duties of secretary, at least in the interim?
If I could just clarify, I'm not taking over the duties
No.
of secretary. I will
Okay.
produce minutes
Okay.
for January, February,
Yeah.
and all meetings from here forward.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second.
Correct.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
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 3 in
Nay.
favor, 2 against. The motion passes. Okay, so we can move on to the treasurer's report.
So I have posted the treasurer's report online. I'll just sort of start at my number 1. I've made a practice of just really indicating any direct expenses that are above $1,000. I last month made a note of anything that was in line or customarily spent. I did not do that this month. However, there are no $1,000 above items that are out of the norm of annual expenditures. We had an expense for radio resources. We had, and thank you very much to our firefighters, 3 LoSAP payments that passed that threshold. So thank you. That's a long-term firefighter receiving payments of over $1,000. Propane, we're in the middle of winter. We're going to pay a lot more for propane now. That will sort of start to back off as we move into warmer weather. Are there any questions about the noted items? So for item number 2 on the treasurer's report for the period of covering February 2023, our revenue collection was $6,069. Just a small portion from the treasurer so far, $5,172. That's in line. We're starting to receive tax revenues now in the greater numbers. And we received a $350 refund from Smith & Associates, our previous accountant that prepaid or charged us through direct debit. We're still correcting those. Any questions over the revenue? Our statement of financial position is total bank accounts, $354,757. I believe that represents somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6 years of operating expenses. When you take a look at the budgets versus actuals, the first thing that I want to make certain that people are aware of, in our budget versus actuals, they're basically, they're averaged out per month. So while you might see that we're spending greater in January than the budget indicates, that would be something like propane, where we have an annual expense for propane, but January is a high propane. So if you see some items that are above the January expenses or above 100%, those do tend to balance out. Payroll, for instance, is one of those that in February, we had payments to individuals that were basically produced in mid-January that dated back to December. So the way that payroll cycles work, so we might see higher than expected payroll for January, it smooths out. Facilities, gas, it's going to smooth out. There is some line items in there for budget versus actuals. You'll see some line items related to an IGA. I believe we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Our election expense for the May 2023 election is going to remain over budget. The budget that was produced last year was for a $10,000 election for May, and I don't believe that that was really vetted at that time. So all of our expenses are going to be in the neighborhood of about $15,000 to $16,000 for our May expense. So we will be over budget. And that will also lead to legal expenses being over budget that still that will be due to elections as well as other legal items that are necessary. I had some topics from discussion from last time. We've received all refunds from Smith and Associates. We'll see in our March transaction list, the final 350 that are due. Propane, last month we talked about me searching for propane vendors. I reached out to every suggested propane vendor and I got zero response. I sent to them almost a 3-year report of our propane use, and no propane provider came back and said we would like to provide you services. So I'm going to end my search for an additional propane vendor. If anybody in the community wants to take that on to be more vocal and aggressive about it, but we're with independent, and until there's a viable option, we'll keep with independent. We do not own a gas tank. Feral Gas still owns it. I believe that's been a question. It has been confirmed with Feral Gas that they own one of our gas tanks. They have no problem that we're filling it with another provider. We'll just still pay to them rent in the month, $50 annually. They'll sell it to us for $650, but that's like a 12, 13, 14 year return. So it makes no sense right now to buy it. So just pay $50 a year until something changes.
So clarification.
Yes, sir.
So as they will let us fill with whomever we want, and we just pay them $50 a year. Is that correct?
That is, I mean, I didn't ask them, but that's historically what's been happening. So since 2000, we've been using a different vendor than them, and there's been no question from the new vendor or from them. So yes, they are allowing us. I don't believe they've said fill it with who you want, but they know they haven't filled it.
Okay, all right.
Last month, a member of the community brought to me a DOLA notice that dealt with basic non-filing of a budget that was delivered to Golden Gate Fire Protection District. I believe what I have learned, and just if you ever track the DOLA's website, we are the point of communication for a special district that formed in the year 2000 that had something to do with special communications. We can't get clarity, but because we're the point of contact, they're going to continually send us notifications of deficiencies, notification of non-filings. If you see those on the website and you read their special communications district, even though it's mailed and delivered to us, it does not affect us. So any warnings of not receiving tax revenue, it will not affect Golden Gate Fire Protection District. It's a complete separate district that we have somehow cross references to. That's all for the treasurer's report.
Any questions? Board? No. Chief's report.
All right.
Benson.
Well, one quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The propane thing, is that more to get like a more competitive rate, or is it to just to get a consistent service of filling the tanks?
Anytime we can get a more competitive rate, absolutely. And of course, service can also be an issue. So it's a combination of both of those. We believe
And
that
one more important than the other at the moment? Has there been issues with filling in the past?
We had an issue with they were late, and it caused us several $1,000s worth of damage to one station. Yeah.
Yeah, and because that question was brought up, just so everyone will know, yes, we had an issue. Station 82, we ran out of gas. We ran out of gas here in a very cold snap. Pipes burst. We're fixing those. And it's questionable who's really at fault. If you're on propane, I guarantee you go check your gauge as much as you can. We may not have checked our gauge, but also our daily gas use between the time they filled last was somewhere in the 20-fold higher than our expected use. So if we're using higher than they expect, we're going to run out sooner than they expect. So there is mutual responsibility, I feel, in the fact that we were using far more than they anticipated, and why we went dry. So thank you.
All right.
Okay, go ahead. Chief.
So we'll start with my assumption of the role of fire chief starting in February after the last board meeting, at which time interim chief Enright assumed the role of assistant fire chief, and that's a role that he's going to be continuing in. As the district moves forward, we're really happy operationally to see him take that role and continue to drive forward in the objectives that he was working on. Spent the last few weeks kind of making sure I've got my feet underneath me, or starting to get my feet underneath me as a transition. Meeting with each of the firefighters, meeting with the officers, meeting with different community members to look at different current and future needs for the department, and also working directly with our Assistant Chief Enright on doing a right seat, left seat transition as we kind of switch roles within the district. And moving forward with that, you know, if there's any other community members in the online or in the audience that feel like they'd like to meet with me, please let me know. Just reach out to me to the email at chief@goldengatefire.org. In that time, I've been able to also start to introduce myself or reintroduce myself to some of our neighboring executive chief officers through the Mountain Chiefs meetings. There's been some really interesting discussion on the Mountain Chiefs level and then the county level as far as responsibility for our financial responsibility for districts versus the counties and the states for different large all hazard incidents, whether that be a wildland fire or a flood or any other kind of larger incident where there may be another incident management team that comes from the county or from the state or even to the federal level. So there's some pretty big conversations that are happening on that county level, and it's really important for us to make sure that as a small district that we're making sure our voice is being heard, and we're making sure that we can advocate for the district in those meetings. With that, the county's building a new delegation of authority forum. Our new sheriff has taken or ran on and is taking a really advanced progressive stance on wildland fire. And part of that is them revamping that their program, their wildland fire program. They're investing in some new people, some new processes. And one of that's a delegation authority form, which we were able to review and then went back to the county for revision. With that also, their county is working hard on kind of rebuilding an incident management team that had dwindled for a little while. And it was brought to our attention that the incident management team, the members of the incident management team that are non-operational may need a sponsor from a fire department or another district to be able to be part of the incident management team. So it's something that we'll be looking forward to potentially working with the county in the future on helping provide that partnership and hopefully maybe get something back to the district as well through that management team. And you guys, just to clarify for the public, Jeffco IMT incident management team is a large broken out incident management structure that's pre-built, that's able to come into anywhere in the county when there's a incident that grows larger than a type 4 local incident, and they're able to take the next step as far as growing the incident, putting things like logistics and finance in place that are required for big incidents. So I actually ended up attending a follow-up meeting today regarding that all hazards agreement between the mountain departments and kind of continue that conversation. There are several more meetings looking into the future, in the near future, integrating ourselves and myself with other chief officers within the Jefferson County region, whether that be mountain and the metro, considering that we kind of border on both sides. Administration, when I first gained access to the office, there was a very large gift box that had been left by the previous administration of a bunch of different projects that were in process that had very little to no direction to them. So I'm kind of going through the triage process of that. And we'll go through some of that implications of that in a moment. The administrator and prevention position that interim chief Enright had proposed is being examined as a larger part of a functional needs assessment, which I'll also speak to in a moment. And the one candidate that had been engaged prior to my arrival at the department will be re-engaged after that's completed, to make sure that this is something that after we look at the actual true functional needs assessment, to make sure that's actually a function that they want to continue to pursue. This last month has been a relatively low call volume, a very low call volume for the district. It's Traditionally in the fire service, January through March in general tend relatively low call volume time. People are not as active. They're staying at home and there's less interactions. People are getting less sick. There's less people on the road. And there's less people in our district using our parks. So call volume has been down. And we'll see that pick back up as the weather starts to warm back up again. So there's only been 10 calls for service total for the district for 2023. And just for public knowledge, because I know that there's been some syntax question on this. When we talk about a call is defined by the National Incident Fire Reporting System, which is what we report to for FEMA, as when someone calls 911 and then the district is called for service. So a call is it's basically shorthand for a call for service. So every time that where district's called for service, that counts as a number. I was asked for clarification a few times on that. So I want to make sure that people understand that. That's just a straight definition. The personnel, there's currently 21 members on the roster. We have four firefighters are currently on a leave of absence. There's been some pretty good movement in the training area of the district since I came on board. Training officer Chris Gay has taken on creating an initial training calendar for the year and publishing that to the district or to the firefighters in the district and to our neighbors. So he created an initial training calendar and has worked really hard to finalize it and will be publishing it for the rest of the year. We met during our officers meeting and spoke about some different training objectives for the year. One of the bigger ones that we discussed and has been set is the idea of holding a firefighter 2 academy specifically for Golden Gate by Golden Gate by the end of the year. In doing so, we should hopefully position several of our firefighters for future promotion into higher ranks and help us build out the district's breadth a little bit better. So I've got an update to actually just got a text message, an update to this bullet item. Golden Fire had offered Golden Gate Fire Academy or Golden Gate Fire Protection District 3 academy spots in their upcoming fire academy. I was just told that we were actually now have been awarded 4 spots. That's coming at no financial cost to the district. That's a very, very significant win for the district, as you know, a normal academy spot can cost anywhere between $1,200 to $1,600 per person. So that's a really big win. That really is a huge thank you to Assistant Chief Enright, multiple firefighters, community members, and especially it sounds like community member Lori Brill, or previous community member Lori Brill, in front of the fire department, who really went to bat to make that happen for Golden Gate Fire. So that's a really cool thing. Acting Chief Enright.
Say, way to go and thank you for getting that done, team. That's awesome. Thank you.
I think I did a dance when I heard that one. Acting Chief Enright, I did another dance when this happened. Not that I was surprised, but actually passed the practical portion of Fire Officer 1. Fire Officer 1 is a high level certification within the certification scheme in Colorado and nationwide for fire officers. It is not a very common thing for a volunteer fire officer, or even a chief level fire officer in the volunteer service, to be able to obtain that level. He deserves significant thanks, or not thanks, applause for obtaining that. And then he'll be taking his written examination. I believe it's the first week of April, and we'll be able to then he'll be able to be awarded his full Fire Officer 1, and will be the second certified fire officer in the district at that point, which is pretty great. So we'll move on past that. So a bigger thing that happened with training in the last several weeks was a meeting that was held between myself and some other folks with Timberline to really understand what the intergovernmental agreement was between Golden Gate fire and Timberline fire that had occurred prior to this board being sat, prior to my coming onto the district. Just based off of just a lot of confusion around it. There's that IGA encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses training records management. It encompasses like actual true delivery of trainings. It encompasses dual recruitment. Trying to think if there's anything else. Incoming recruit classes. There's quite a few things that are included in that IGA. And in our discussions between ourselves and Timberline, there was kind of some agreement that the IGA wasn't being followed to the T by either side, and it wasn't working. Some portions of that IGA weren't really working all that well. Not all of them, only some of them were not working very well, and really didn't see the true value from what was in the IGA and the intent of the IGA. The intent of the IGA was of a good intent, trying to improve our training and improve our documentation, and kind of where we ended up between the two districts. So we talked pretty at length about the best path forward, and discussed that an IGA is important between the two districts for a grant that was dual applied for recruitment. So a IGA between the two districts, between Golden Gate and Timberline, is required for recruitment in order to receive funding that comes from FEMA, which is, I believe, $15,000 a year. And I think Chief Bondis may be online and can chime in on that. That's allocated from the federal government for recruitment for both agencies. So that IGA basically should be modified to move forward for a dual recruitment IGA. However, with me coming onto the district and the background that I have in training, that a lot of the things that had been assumed by Timberline for training record management, and some of that can come back to the district, and we can assume responsibility back for that. And we discussed the idea of moving forward with an IGA between the districts that had no financial component to it. That does not mean that the departments would not train together. It does not mean that we would not be doing things with the district or between the two districts. And it also means that there would be no negative effect operationally for the IGA that was for automatic and mutual aid. So that those are separate agreements, and that those agreements would not be affected. We'd still have a great working relationship with our neighbor, which is a very important thing for us moving forward, that we can help them when they need us, and they can help us when we need them.
So you're saying we're not paying them anymore?
If the IGA would need to be modified in order to move forward, I think, but that was the agreement that we came forward as being an appropriate way to move forward. And I do want to clarify that Golden Gate does have the capability to assume the training management portion of the IGA.
Does that mean we could get our portion of the $360,000 grant they were awarded?
So the grant is specifically the SAFER grant is for it's for recruitment, and that portion of that grant funds a position at Timberline. Correct. So that funding allocation, I don't believe for that portion can come back to our district, to my knowledge. But the money that that Golden Gate does allocate for training services from Timberline on a monthly basis can be returned to the district.
I just want to make a mention that our last two chiefs back represented that grant as an award to our district also. I didn't think it was by reading the grant. So I concur with what you're saying, but it was kind of misrepresented a year ago.
So, and I want to clarify, the one thing that is important about us moving forward is that, as we're specifically talking about Chief Bondis, and Chief Bondis made it very clear that he still wants to be able to train our firefighters. He still wants to engage with Golden Gate. he wants us to be able to go in with their academies, but it's more going to be a sweat equity, both of us working together for training. And, instead of us potentially working on a blanket cost, doing a cost coverage for equipment, or basically direct cost, a direct cost coverage for each person that would go into a training.
Would it be possible someday for Chief Hans to come here and we could meet him?
He's online. Chief Bond, do you have any, or I think Chief Bond or Chief Onder, do you have any other additions to that? No? Okay.
Chief, I think you did a great job of summarizing our meeting the other day.
Thank you, sir. I have a question. So I've heard that we were outsourcing services. We're no longer going to outsource those services, and we have the ability to do that. How do these services now get taken care of within our district?
So the training record management sources or services that was being provided by Timberline, largely based off of their expertise to be able to do so, is an expertise that I currently hold. And can provide for the district, and hopefully train people in the future to be able to maintain that in the long term for the district.
And within your current allocation of hours, does that add hours to what you're doing?
It does, and it's variable based off of based off of people. When people are going through different types of training, it can be higher or lower based off of that and things that are occurring in training in the district.
Can I ask what we paid do we have an average of what was being paid for the last couple of years?
I know that we're currently paying $833 per month. Our current IGA was $10K. But if you look at averages over the last several years, that average would be a little bit higher. There were some years where we had additional expenses that were tied into Timberline. Some of those expenses might not be directly related to the IGA. They could be true up expenses for, I know I get invoiced sometimes for background checks, et cetera. So those are things that we were outsourcing, but still needed to pay the per item fee for. So in general, I believe if the IGA has been negotiated to a $0, then that is an $833 monthly savings to our district. And
just for clarification, because their IGA has not been officially modified and signed, that's still a step that has to occur. And it has to occur between the two districts. But there is basically a path to move forward in that way.
And is that a board to board, or is that a chief to chief to kind of revamp a new IGA?
Chief to chief, and then I believe it has to potentially be. Did you guys sign the original, or did anyone? The original, I think it's chief to chief.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that would be presented to the board for final approval. So,
Yeah.
but they would be a zero cost.
Correct. That's the agreement from that meeting was to move forward with a dual recruitment IGA that did not have a financial cost associated with it.
Cal, if you're going to take this on, you're going to take on more hours. And we know that you have obligations outside of this district. So I would motion that our board would move the budgeted funds that are allocated to training and that we were paying to an outsourced district, and allocate those funds to Kyle, Chief Benson. If he's going to be performing the duties, he should be receiving the pay. So motion to increase Chief Benson's hours based on $833 divided by his hourly rate.
I'll second that. Would that be kind of kept in a pool that he just draws from as needed because the training hours you're going to be putting in aren't they're going to be random. Is that right, Kyle? Intermittent or would be scheduled.
Like I said, there's no training hours can be much higher one week than the next. So that would be, that's a very generous offer. I think moving forward, it's probably better for the position to be for it to be a general application of the hours. Is that what you're asking?
So if you're saying the hours are going to sort of do this, then in the months weeks that those hours additional are not allocated to training IGA recovery options, are there things that you could be doing that were part of your
Yes.
vision for our district?
Correct.
So there are ways that you could still benefit the district with the
Yes.
extra hours, grant applications, they
Correct.
take time. So if we were to put some sort of targeted action items to these additional hours that include recovery of the training IGA items, whatever those were, moving forward with an impact fee process so that we can implement impact fees as well as grant application time.
Mhm.
Would that smooth out the hours so it's a little bit more consistent work and benefit to the district?
Yes, I mean, I will be continually honest about the fact that the position of fire chief requires a significant portion of hours.
Mhm.
And that is that allocation increases the ability to do the job better.
Did you put all the figures and kind of itemize it out so we can see what we're really looking at?
Yes, sir.
And
What's your hourly rate?
Voting on it so quick.
Thank you.
The hourly rate would require some math, but it should be based off of 36,000 a year salary.
Okay, so if we
So 40
36,
hours.
It's basically 75, was it?
Yeah, I think
bucks,
75 sounds
an
right.
hour. Yeah,
so if we divided 83 by 75, that's an 11 hours additional per month that we could approve. It's shifting budget item A to budget item B, and it increases the number of hours that you work and it increases your responsibility.
Correct.
Okay, so
sorry,
Sorry,
Chris, I would want to clarify, maybe just keep it even numbers and maybe ask you to modify your motion to have it be, hey, it's 50 hours a month now at 75 bucks an hour. And I think that we should also ask the chief to document kind of where his hours are going on a monthly basis and include that in a report to the board. We don't need to talk about it at every meeting, but it should be documented and available to the public. It doesn't have to be part of his chief's report, but I think that might be good to continue to have that be justified.
I think from my perspective on this as well, just to be plainly honest with you, like this week alone, I spent upwards of 22 hours for work for the district. So I think that documenting for 50 hours a month is not going to necessarily be an issue, but I think it's also important to get a better idea of what the job to be able to of the fire chief for the district to be able to get a better idea of what that looks like.
Then I would even ask, outside of this motion, and, documenting 50 hours, that you document the total number of hours that you're providing to the district. I think.
Do you
that
think
be
it would it be better to have them in separate reports?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
So-
go ahead.
I will motion for us to increase Chief Benson's hours to 50 hours per month at $75 per hour. And that will be supported by a chief's report to the board, made public to the community to justify the hours.
I think that is a very reasonable request.
Is there a second?
Oh, yes, I'll second that. Dave, are you okay with that? Do you
I want to
understand
see a
it?
spreadsheet on this and see where the hours and the money's coming from.
Well, that's what he's
And
gonna.
I'd like to have a discussion on this more than just you, Chris.
What do you want to discuss?
Well,
10 minutes.
I don't have any 10 minutes. Chief Kyle has only been here really for one meeting.
He just saved us $14,000.
Point of order, Julie, we will have public comment later.
Okay, Kyle's only been here 1 month. I'd like to get a feel for how things are going before we. I'm not even sure what you're proposing totally.
I am okay, okay, in my turn, I will.
So I just think it's kind of quick, and I too would like to see this in writing in a spreadsheet, if it's a spreadsheet or somehow listed. I'm sure.
As he goes along, he's gonna document.
Well, I'd like, yeah.
And that can hours log.
This is pretty quick. We don't have to make a decision tonight. I want to see spreadsheets
What do you mean?
Well, we have a motion to approve this tonight.
We're in. All right, I'd like to table your motion until next month.
My motion is still on the table.
We have a motion on the floor in a second.
I'll like to take a little additional time to just discuss this, following our rules. You asked for a spreadsheet. We were paying $833 a month to Timberline.
I'd like to see it in writing.
You have a budget on our website that you can open anytime you would like to. Our budgeted line item to Timberline is no longer a budgeted line item to Timberline. Therefore, our district will shift $833 from Timberline to our payroll expense.
Well, I believe.
It's actually going to be less than that. It's going to be $750. So we're still going to
Thank you.
have some savings.
Both sides should have a benefit in this. There should be a savings for the district too. Not just a shift in money. I think that is something that should be looked at. So I've always been against sending $10,000 a year to Timberline. So
Okay.
I think a savings should be in store. If we were to do this, it should also be beneficial, not just in the service Kyle provides, but also in the savings that Kyle would provide.
Steve, the savings are
Excuse me.
there are savings, so it's $750 instead of $833. And it's also, if you're asking our new chief to do free work up above and beyond what we're paying him in order to give the district savings, that sounds really inappropriate. So he's already telling us that he's going to document the full 50 hours a month he's doing, plus the above and beyond. And I think it's really unfair to ask him to do free work for the district to
Are you
start.
asking him to do that?
Okay, and so, and beyond that, if he's unable to document the 50 hours a month in order to justify this shift, or we don't buy it, or we don't really think that we're getting the benefit, we can remove it. There is nothing that stops us from doing that. So we already know what we've been paying to Timberline. We've got a great partnership now. We're like, hey, you know what? We're going to continue to recruit together for free. We've got a new chief who can do this task, and he's willing to do it cheaper than what we were paying Timberline and justifying his hours. I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Niffy, I'd like to make one more comment too. When we're talking about the ability for the chief to spend time to implement impact fees, that is revenue to the district, that is above and beyond what we're receiving today. And every opportunity that he has to apply for a grant that we receive is income above and beyond what we're receiving today. So I do believe that there is a return investment on this process.
Anything else?
I heard impact fees come up, that's first.
Well, he's gonna be working. You said. Oh,
Yeah.
Meredith?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
So the 10K that's been going to Timberline per year. Is that written into the IGA? Because if it is, we have to keep paying it until the IGA is modified. So this
Yes,
should not take effect until that's been done.
Our IGA has an annual renewal discussion cycle, and that basically on March 9th of this year, our IGA was up for rediscussion renewal. We've heard that it is a mutually,
Still have to be rewritten
yes,
and so on.
Mhm.
yes, which I,
There was an agreement during that meeting that the payment to Timberline based off of that date could be halted as of that meeting.
Anybody else? We have a motion on the floor in a second.
the motion has
Call
been
the
seconded.
motion. Call the motion.
A
All in,
motion to vote. I mean, the motion is motion to increase Chief Benson's hours to 50 per month at $75 per hour.
and he will document his time. Call the motion. All in-
Oh, I mean, I've already called the motion. It's been seconded, so you
all
can
in
call a
favor?
vote.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
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 All against?
I think, yeah, I abstain. I'm against it for now. I don't have enough.
A no or an abstain?
That's a no.
Abstention, you're abstaining or no?
I said I think,
Okay,
I want to see if I can figure I gotta do is look them up.
All right,
All right,
more,
yes,
give us more.
all right. And I apologize, this is a little bit of a lengthy report for you guys. Planning and life safety, there's no updates from the city of Golden on the IGA. I know that when Chief Enright was the interim, that there was discussion around an IGA with City of Golden for inspections. I did have an opportunity to speak to their fire marshal about that. And I think that he's kind of the same opinion that nothing had moved forward with that. There are several pending inspection needs that came with the box and also through clearing through some phone messages and emails. The fire marshal from Golden has definitely has offered a once-off assistance with a more urgent sprinkler plan that needs a review. But we definitely need to work towards an official solution to fill the plan review and life safety function for the fire district moving forward. I know there's been quite a few different options for that. And it's just something that we're working on as far as what the best way forward. And just for clarification for the public, there is I come from an operational background in the fire service. A fire marshal, someone who's actually certified to be able to review things like sprinklers or plans or plan reviews, is someone who has a different dedicated career path. They have extensive years and years and years of education and certification that allows them to be able to do that per the IRC, which is the code. The unique thing about Golden Gate is that a lot of the IRC applies to commercial buildings and schools and every kind of big building that you see down in town. Up here, we have very limited commercial zoning, mostly residential, and the IRC applies to driveway ingress or access egress, exterior portions of a home, and then fire safety appliances like sprinklers. And as they are applied to, and I'm still working through this, and the districts has adopted what the IRC, so the international code that was adopted in 2015, and that's what's currently applied to the district. But as of right now, we have to find somebody on the outside to be able to outsource those reviews for the district, as it's not something that wouldn't make sense for us to bring somebody into the district who has that high level of ability to do it all the time. So that's something we're working on. Next thing, logistics requires a motion. This is another really great thing that occurred in the last couple of days. Colorado State Patrol reached out to Lieutenant Patton, and after many years of work with them, offered us two very well outfitted F-150s that came off of the line from Colorado State Patrol that then retired. They're in really great condition. I had the opportunity to look at them, and so did Lieutenant Patton. And so they've gone through the CSP maintenance scheme, which I believe is every month. It's pretty intense what they do with those vehicles to make sure that they never fail. They're a really great value for us or for any vehicle. It's anything comparable on the market that I was able to find for a alternative vehicle for a replacement for 81 and or a dedicated backcountry rescue truck was anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000 similarly equipped. And a lot of them would have to be shipped from the East Coast. So this is a really awesome value that CSP is offering the district. So there's two different vehicles. The first one's a 2017 F-150 short bed crew cab that's got 25,000 miles on it. It has a full light package, a high-vis console, which is the console in the center that holds radios, and a light controller, a Lear commercial topper, and a bed slide. It does need a little bit of work and needs a bumper replacement, tailgate replacement, and a windshield replacement. They're all superficial. It has nothing to do on the operation of the vehicle itself. When CSP takes a truck out of service, they take the radios out based off of the encoding that they use for CSP radios and their own radio system. And then it gets debadged. So it's a completely just silver truck. that all of the badging that you normally see on a CSP truck has been removed. So it'd be up to the district to be able to put our badging on it, but there's no cost for them removing it. Both vehicles are in a similar status. The second vehicle is a 2016, so 1 year older. It's got a little bit higher miles, 133,000 miles. Also $12,500, full light package, the Havas console, Lear commercial topper, and the bed slide. Radio, and it needs a radio package and some decal work. With that, acquiring both vehicles, going through repairing those cosmetic things and outfitting both vehicles with decals and radios has approximate cost of $30,000 if we are able to use some of the equipment that would come off of utility 81, which is currently next to us, unfortunately unfunctional. Sitting next to us at station 83, it will not start again. It's been kind of sounds like an ongoing deal. So that's the current approximate cost of acquisition. And then additional things that need to go into the vehicles for as far as equipment is not in the $30,000 budget that we've set for this, but that does meet the budget that was set for the 2023 budget for vehicle acquisition for light vehicles. And instead of buying one, we will get to acquire 2 high quality vehicles. And like I said, the benefit of this is that we'll end up with 2 a replacement for 81, and then also a vehicle that can be used for firefighters to access backcountry rescue calls more successfully instead of trying to bring a large brush truck into the backcountry. And also has the ability for us to be able to potentially extricate a patient from the backcountry in a more protected environment instead of just in the back of an open pickup truck.
Carl,
Yes, sir.
do we have a place to store these?
So the utility 80 would be a take-home vehicle that I would use, which replaces that. The backcountry rescue truck is a vehicle that can be stored either by stacking vehicles in the station or on the exterior of a station and plugged in, so it's batteries maintained and secured. And then be used for people in the district. I believe Chief Enright's, who kind of came up with that vision, was that vehicle would be able to be moved to station 82, would live down here at station 83, would be able to move to station 82 if there was someone crewing up there for a quick response vehicle, so we wouldn't be putting miles on one of the bigger trucks. So it would probably spend a lot of its time outside, but there should be ability for us to be able to park it inside of an inclement weather.
Okay, the other thing is, they're 4-wheel drive?
Correct. They're
Because
both
it didn't
four-wheel
say in your notes.
yes, that's a very good clarification. They are both 4-wheel drive.
Okay, yeah, I checked on, they are a great deal. And you think you can get them both with the paint and the decals and the removal of the decals?
Yeah.
All for 30,000?
So the removal of the decals happens at CSP, and that's part of the 12,000. The decal work that the district needs to have done in order for them to be badges in our truck, it can be variable based off of how fancy you want to get. That cost can go anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 per vehicle. And then radios can be transferred from the vehicle that we currently have over to one of these, and we may have to look at the acquisition of one vehicle. And then, like I said, the only other thing that comes out of that is cost on the backside is putting equipment in the vehicle, but that's not part of the capital acquisition costs, as they're separate utility, they're separate.
Just to know a few more details, are they the 2.7 liter engines, the EcoBoost, you know?
I believe they are both 2.7 liters.
And they're automatics?
Correct.
Well, I make a motion.
Mr. Green, can you please repeat your motion? It's breaking up. We're still getting static, so I'll let you know if you can just give some testing comments until we can hear you.
Testing, I'm getting unstable internet connection right now.
All right, you're coming through clearly now, so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we have, is there any more discussion? We have a motion and a second.
Is there anything
What was the
wrong?
motion? Sorry, I said, can we restate the motion, please?
Steve made a motion that we purchase those two vehicles now,
Steve.
and I seconded.
It's just cosmetic. So it's a
Yeah.
windshield, the rear tailgate, which can be replaced at $700, and the bumper, which is.
And you drove them, they drive fine.
We didn't have the opportunity to drive one of them. I was able to get in both of them. They're both great.
Yeah.
And Sam, did you have the opportunity to drive either of them?
One of them's still bad, we still gotta clean it up. So.
Yeah. I think they were, yeah, they were gonna do that this week. Hopefully it should be done by tomorrow.
Let's vote.
But anything, Niffy?
No, let's vote.
Okay, I'll call the motion. All in favor of purchasing these two vehicles as per Chief Kyle, Chief Benson recommends. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I,
unanimous. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank
That's
you,
a huge
Sam.
thank you to Sam.
Yeah, thank you.
That was I think has been a dream of, I know Chief Enright and the firefighters for a while, and that's going to be a really great thing for the district.
We had a bill of sales and everything, CST and I'll get that over to you, Deb, because money you don't have to sign everything.
Right.
Now, what are you gonna
Treasurer.
do- What we're gonna do with the dead one?
Oh, yeah, what?
running and selling.
Yeah,
Um,
roll it a few times.
Yeah, I think we'll use the equipment that we can off of it, and then we'll look at whether it's better to be donated or for us to be able to use it for a training of some sort. But we'll find a use for it that's best for the district. If it does please the board, we can look at what it would be for someone else to acquire that vehicle. It might be based off of its current condition. I'm not sure what the return of value is going to be for us doing that, but it's something that we can investigate. And it also may require work for us to be able to.
It's worth $800 in scrap.
$800 in scrap. I will say that it tends to be for us to be able to get a vehicle that we can do for like extrication training. Yeah. I think maybe we can look at it. But for us to get a vehicle for extrication training is something that usually does not come at a cost of the district. And so for us, if there's an upside for the district, we can find that upside.
Okay, great.
All right.
Continue on.
Yes, there we go. I apologize for the long. That's two. Repair project is largely completed. There's all that's left is a little tiny bit of drywall texturing and painting. Sam, did they finish all the plumbing yesterday?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So all the plumbing repairs have been done on 81 and then 82. And that's awesome. So future actions and events. So on the meeting with all of the firefighters and the officers, we spoke a lot about what they envisioned for the district and also for the community members for the short term and medium term and long term as the district moves forward in order to kind of shape what my ideas for action items as we move forward. A big one that has come forward, and I know that this is presented prior to my arrival from Chief Enright, was a mission, vision, and value meeting to revisit what is a very old mission, vision, value statement, and hope that it would better reflect the department and the community in our path forward. So that's the first one. We'll be looking at putting together a collective meeting between the firefighters, board members, and the community to be able to do that. I may try to bring in some volunteers from the outside who kind of are experts in doing this process in that meeting. The other requests are a clean out and cleanup days for each station that would be dedicated. So again, that's something that would be put on a schedule. Firefighters, board members, community members come to the station. We'll grill out. Hopefully the weather's going to start getting nicer here. We're going to go through the stations. We'll clean them up. We're going to put some pride back. We're going to put the shine. I told you guys I was going to say we're going to make it shine a lot. We're going to make it shine. And we're going to throw away the stuff that's in there that shouldn't be in there anymore. and make sure that we're better operating in our district. The plan review process I already spoke about, trying to make sure that we're doing that in the most financially judicious way for the department, for the district, but also making sure that we're meeting the needs of the people who are building or need permitting within the district. One of the other things that I really heard a lot from everybody that I spoke to, especially community members, was how do I get involved with the fire department? I don't necessarily want to be a firefighter. I'm, whether it be of my physical condition, my time, but I really still want to be part of the fire department. And some of the other districts of our size around the state have found a really good model of using non-operational community volunteers for non-operational roles. And there's just some options in here. One of them is a volunteer admin or finance person that tends up being a little bit of a hard thing for someone to fill as a volunteer, which is why traditionally that tends to be a paid position. A PIO or a PR person. This is somebody who is forward facing from the district, non-operational, but runs social media, Facebook, potentially a website, is the main point of contact for a newspaper or for the television, and can be for a television reporter, and just kind of does that really forward-facing information giving role. There is a potential that the county is creating a PIO pool amongst all of the mountain fire agencies, but that's not something that's been established yet. And it is usually better to have a identified PIO for the district. So I have had very, very good experience with a volunteer PIO PR person in my other role, and something that we can look at implementing in the district. It's simple as potentially, even if there's nobody who lives in the community who's interested in that kind of role, going down to the community college or to Metro, who in the communications program, be like, hey, this is a really unique opportunity for someone to put something on their resume. Let's have you come up and basically, do an internship as a PIO for the district. And then the other one, as we said, is prevention and education and home assessment. Prevention as it applies to the plan review is not something that can be done by a volunteer based off of the educational requirements that are part of that. But it's more about being able to go in and potentially take a higher view of what prevention is, as far as home safety, whether that be health or fire safety, and with the education that goes along with that, providing education for the community at the Grange or other events. And also potentially looking at doing a volunteer home assessment program, which would be something similar to what Boulder County does with what's called Wildfire Partners. It's a volunteer voluntary home assessment for wildfire mitigation standards to the Colorado State mitigation standards. Those are just, again, different options and opportunities that kind of been thrown out. I'm sure there are more, and I'm not sure that all of them directly need to be applied to the district, but the point is that we're going to I'm going to look into the idea of integrating non-operational volunteers into the district to better kind of grow our breadth and our span, and build our team, make our team a little bit stronger. Mid-range, we talked about building a new strategic operational plan. This is not necessarily a strategic plan that has to do with finances and everything for the district, but more of like an operational plan as the district moves forward. How do we do better for coverage? How do we do better for our firefighters? Operational member recruitment plan. This is something that is done both in-house and also with the recruitment with the IGA with Timberline. Financial diversity plan, as you guys saw in the presentation that I made last month, and then also has already been referenced, the idea of looking at different financial opportunities for the district to expand revenue beyond just tax, and better strengthen the financial security of the district as it moves into the future, by providing it with multiple revenue streams. So that's part of that mid-range. Creating an annual grant application calendar. So essentially, a lot of districts create a calendar of the grants that they say, okay, this is a no questions asked that we will apply for this grant every year. It's a reoccurring it's a reoccurring calendar, and those grant applications get basically allocated amongst staff or in this case, me, based off of the position that I'm in. And then also I'm looking at Station 82 resident recruitment. I know that's something that happened prior to my arrival, and is currently a topic on the mind of a lot of people who live in that portion of the district, is the coverage that's available out of Station 82. So being able to look at trying to find a resident or a solution for that district. Longer horizon, I'm looking at station update plan wish list. I know that there was in previous administration, there was large, big plans about updating or doing full remodels of stations, things that were really capital intensive. And the feedbacks that I got from universally from both members of the community and from firefighters is that a little bit on these stations can go a long way. So basically looking at what we can do to really make those stations a little bit more habitable, a little bit more inviting for people to be there, and hopefully, and secondarily increase people being at the station and decrease turnout times to when someone calls 911 for assistance. And then also looking at an apparatus replacement plan. That also predates me, but it's a very long process creating that plan and then providing that to the board and having that be implemented. So that's on a 6-month horizon. We're going to keep on going through so we can get this done. Community concepts and visions. Final things that came out of the meetings with the officers and the firefighters is being able to following a model that is been implemented successfully in many other volunteer fire departments, where we still maintain an all hazards response model for, we're going to respond anytime someone called 911, doesn't matter what it's for. It's for, someone who has a very basic EMS emergency to, a massive flood. But also allowing people to volunteer kind of on their terms, as far as what they want to and have the ability to contribute. That comes into what I just have coined in here, a community responder program or special teams program. After I meet with the medical director, I can look into this a little bit further, but the idea, many districts have implemented a community medical responder program where people who have medical certifications within the community, whether that be a nurse or a physician or a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner or a paramedic or an EMT or an EMR, can respond after getting training from the district to their neighbors to be able to decrease time to CPR or time to initial contact for medical care, and with some very, very substantial success, especially when it comes to time to CPR and life saved because of that. Also specific wildland firefighter training. There's a lot of people who come into the district like, hey man, I want to be a firefighter. And then they say, well, I have to go be an EMT or an EMR. I have to go through Wildland Academy. I have to go through hazmat. I have to go through, Structural Fire Academy, which is about a year of training altogether for someone to do. And it's a part-time to full-time job for about a year for them to be able to get through all that training. It's quite a lot. When you silo somebody to say, hey, I just want to be able to, I'm not interested in responding to the blood and the guts and the gore, to the vomit or the poop, something that's going to make me feel gross. I want to be there for my neighbors when the big one comes. When we have a wildland fire, I want to be able to do that. Allowing those people to engage with the district and be wildland firefighter reserve special teams. And the same thing for backcountry rescue. Allowing people who are really heavy into recreation, maybe not interested in the firefighting side, but are really interested in serving that specific need within the district with all of our parks, the ever-growing trail systems and the increasing use in those parks. It allows people to really focus on that and be really good at what they're doing and allow us to, and not that we already provide a really great service in those parks, but allow us to just grow to that next level of expertise. There was a really cool vision that someone shared, that multiple people shared when we were talking to the firefighters about us being the model urban interface department that provides backcountry rescue, enough so that we can train and share it with other people and create a program that expands beyond Golden Gate. And that part of that would be being able to expand that program. We talked about the dispensable space home assessment, community landing zone, which is something that's been talked about before, initial hand crew, type 2 interagency, and then also the joint technical rescue program. So those are the concepts and visions. So I apologize. I know that was a lot, but there was a lot of really good, important things that had happened in the last month.
Kyle,
Yes, sir.
community landing zone program. Tell me a little bit more about that. Just a heading here.
Yeah, so that
For helicopter?
yeah, so that's a program or a strategic vision that pre-exists to me. My understanding of that is basically indicating like predefined landing zones within the community, whether it be on private property or whatnot, and that they have to be, but they're basically designated.
Let me give you a little background about something up here. They put these balls on wires out here because I believe one time a helicopter landed right out here in the road. I don't know why it was landing here, but it was a need. Okay. It's not ordinary that they land here, but they're also changing the power lines.
Mhm.
United has contacted me because I own land right here. And they've probably contacted the station too, because they're moving some of these power lines around. I suggested to United that they take the pole across the street and move it 15 feet. It would increase the distance. So you might get a contact or call from United because they're going to be changing some poles and power lines up here and suggesting that they open that area up a little more. Because it is tight and they did put the balls, the visual balls on there.
Okay,
That's just an idea that should be, in case they contacted you, to keep that in mind.
thank you for the heads up. I actually did not know that was occurring. So
Yeah,
thank you.
there's a pole right on the opposite side of Golden Gate Canyon that could be easily moved a little bit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to get information about good landing stuff?
Yes, I think that was like as far as we move forward, and if Chief Enright's on, maybe you can address this a little bit further. My understanding is basically creating a list or a map of predefined landing zones that have been approved by the community to be able to be used. It's better for, a lot of times it's better operationally for us to say we know that we have these predefined landing zones that are safe for a helicopter, they're safe for the firefighters. You know, if there are on private property, to have that permission beforehand.
That's what might be real good about this one. It's on the highway or the road.
Yeah.
Motorcycle accident or something, so you don't have to, you know, it's a state road.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you.
You done?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you done?
I am all done. I apologize for the very, very long.
Okay, where are we? Community organization reports,
Yeah.
Dee Dee?
So for meeting record minutes on Dee Dee Ramstetter speaking for the auxiliary. We have given Chief Benson a copy of our bylaws and our operations. We are getting geared up already for our annual fundraiser. It is set for September 23rd, 2023. And I would ask that you, Chief, get with your lieutenants, everybody work together with your firefighters, put this date in your brain. September 23rd, 2023, at the Grange is our annual fundraiser pig roast. We will do introductions of the chief and all of our volunteer men and women on the department. So we'd like to make sure they know ahead of time, book that date out for us. And we do need all hands on deck for that. So that's another reason we need to make sure everybody knows that date. You know, things come up and they please try to keep us penciled in. And the auxiliary is having a meeting here at the Grange, our monthly meeting. April 30th, we will be discussing themes for the pig roast. There's been possibilities of maybe gearing it toward, let's fund a newer truck. So join us then for that meeting and bring your ideas to the table. We'd like to see new faces, and that's it for the auxiliary.
I'd like to mention something to you, Dee Dee, and to the auxiliary. Thank you. I would like just publicly, the auxiliary, every member of the auxiliary has gone out of their way to make sure that I feel very welcomed here and has done like so many things in the last month for me to become accustomed, to give me education about the history of the district. You know, and, from giving me books about the history and, sitting down and talking to me about all the different things that make Golden Gate, that it's just been really an incredible experience so far. So thank you, Auxiliary, for making that effort with me. It's been great.
Thank you.
Terry?
Yeah, my name is Terry Costello, and I'm the president of the Golden Gate Range. And usually I try and keep my speech to 1 or 2 sentences, and I apologize for the length of this one. But first, the Grange, I enjoyed a meeting with the chief last week, and really look forward to working with you and celebrating. Come closer.
Yeah, they can't hear you or talk louder. Dee Dee yells very loud. Maybe you're a little softer spoken.
There you go. I kind of figured that I'd have a problem with that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to this and working with you and supporting you. We have a community brunch on April 16th, 10 to 1. I have invited the chief and his family to join us. We're also going to be launching at that time the Lookout Alert. You'll see the little foam thing on the back, and I'll be handing out cards. I want everybody, my goal is to get everybody to sign up for that in this district. Our county commissioner Tracy provided me a bunch of handouts and flyers, and so we will be really working on that going forward in the next couple of months. I also have some really great news. Open Space reached out to me today, and for you who don't know, we work very closely with their historical society and their stewardship people. And we worked on the Centennial House, which is up on Golden Gate, the Rock House, along with down here with Galbraith, and the old Golden Gate toll road. And they have actually completed their historical society designation for the state of Colorado with the Centennial House. So we're going to be having a large dedication here at the Grange. We will be giving tours of the Centennial House. Eventually, they're thinking about putting a permanent there. But until then, they do want to include the community in all of this, and it's been a really nice relationship with them. And so that's some good news. I didn't know on another subject, did I hear correctly that we are putting a communication policy on the agenda tonight? Did that go? Okay, all
Yes.
right, good. I didn't hear back there. Well, that's good. Last week, I received 2 emails from board member Steve Green. And he addressed me, a neighbor, and also the entire board. And I felt that they were inappropriate because it came on the GGFPD email to me about a Grange function and what I said at a Grange function. And they were not nice. They're just, anyway, I won't go into that. I have the floor, sir. I cannot, I stand behind my words, and I'm not sure if I really even would have responded to this if you had sent it on your personal email. But because you choose to put it to the board and the community into public record, I feel that I have to come and speak out about this behavior. And Steve, please don't interrupt. Okay. All right. I have spent many years in this community cultivating trust. I volunteer for everything. I am the current Grange president, and to have these type of emails out does not help this community with donations, support. It's rhetoric, and it's unfortunate. The GGFPD board must protect its relationships with other organizations, the county commissioners, the fire marshals, the media, planning and zoning, our chief and our wonderful volunteer firefighters, Timberline firefighter, the auxiliary and the Grange. And we need to protect yourselves as well as our board. And so I'm very pleased that we are going to put a communication policy in place. And I believe it's a revised one. It's now formalized. I hope it passes tonight. I strongly encourage it to be passed tonight. I'm just so disappointed about this destructive behavior that I've witnessed over the last several months. And you don't have the floor. And so I would like us to focus on protecting our firefighters, our district, and our tax dollars. And I apologize for the length of this. It should have been shorter. But I really think that it is time to put a stop to this nonsense. Thank you.
I'd like to add for the record that the email can be forwarded to any individual in the community that requests it. It has been forwarded to the entire board. So if you have not seen the email and you would like to see the content of the
I
email,
can read it to you.
we're not going to take the time of the board to read the email. Any individual community member that would like a copy of the email, send a request to the board. We will forward the email to you directly.
When do I get you last Sunday.
This is enough. It's enough, Steve. Stop, please.
You can't tell me
you
I
don't-
can't. do that.
I suggest you. I suggest
But I have to-
public comment. Unless you're speaking, is he speaking for the board? Or
I'm speaking for myself. I'm a board member.
then you speak in public comment.
No, I'm speaking right now. I don't know what you call it.
I'd like
Last
to
Sunday-
So I would make a point of order that,
This is not on
you know, this
agenda.
is not public comment, or this is the community reporting time, or sorry, community reports. So there's no opportunity to speak or debate it.
I'm sorry, Nippy, what did you say?
I said, the current portion of this meeting, if I understand correctly, is the community organization reports. I do not believe part of the community organization reports is for the board to respond to the reports from the community. That's my point of order.
If you want to cover up lies, that's fine. Do it.
Stop it.
But that's what you're doing.
Quiet, Steve.
You covered up lies. in
If
the
you're
minutes,
not
too.
gonna stop talking, you're gonna
No, a
have to
board
leave
member
the
has an
meeting.
opportunity to talk.
Is
Yeah.
the member saying that I'm lying?
Yes,
That is not the opinion of the board.
this is my opinion. It's not an opinion,
You're
it's true.
saying that the board.
I can prove it.
You know, opinions like assholes. They all stink.
Right. that-
Talk to the little asshole.
Okay, all right, stop.
You want some? Steve? You want- Well, you're here. You're.
All right.
Hey, whoever's speaking needs to move towards the microphone, and I would really appreciate if we could have one person speaking at a time. But until we move on to the next section, you know, right now, I believe that the the community organization reports have concluded. If they have
Okay, next
concluded,
up.
we should move to the next item on the agenda.
Hold on. You guys, you gonna put up with this shit? That you.
Bobby,
I've done enough. Years. Go.
Mr. Green, thank you.
That's just correct.
well, you called his wife a liar.
Well, she is not.
No,
telling
it-
the
no.
truth. Well, if you guys don't want me to say that.
It's already been said. If you request it from the board, zip it, move on.
I'm going to old business. We're gonna talk about the election update.
Well, worth it.
Let's keep the firewall.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Firewall should.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We're gonna back up just for a minute. Chief Benson is going to talk about an update on Firewise.
Yeah, so this is, it's not necessarily under the fire department, and it's more of a community thing, but I do want to thank publicly Deb and Lori Burrow and several other people in the community who worked very hard to regain the NFPA Firewise USA recognition designation for the community as of last week. I believe it was last Friday. That's a lot of work. And I know now as a community, we have the designation of a Firewise community.
Right, thank you, thank you. There's information on Firewise. I believe, Terry, we've got information on Firewise available. Handouts, if anybody needs any further information on that. I had a phone meeting with our DEO, Sarah Shepherd, who is wonderful, by the way.
Are we into old business?
Yes, we're moving on to old business. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you. The
Freedom of speech, right?
Done.
Hey, Bobby. Yes.
Can the individual who is interrupting please be identified?
I'm sorry, what, Niffy?
There's an individual that appears to keep interrupting. Can that individual be identified for the record?
It's
Please.
Terry's husband.
Okay.
Taking offense at comments being made. Let's adjourn for 5 minutes.
Three or four deputies here. That's why.
Meetings could be. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I wish I could have moved it up. No, it's okay. It's gonna get a little heated again, so. Here comes your water. Yeah, they want it. I got one. Thanks.
It's like, we're done talking yet. Why not?
I was wondering when
You're not listening.
never got my water. So I guess I'm president.
Ah,
Well.
Are we ready? Did I call the meeting back to order in about 5 minutes?
Time or just,
Okay. I'm calling the meeting back to order, please. Harry. Please, quiet.
Person. It's Paul gone. It's Paul gone. I still haven't gotten a hold of it. Haven't got a hold of dispatch. It's Paul gone.
Okay. You haven't gotten,
Are we?
He's
we
going
okay?
home.
Okay.
Paul
Are we still
Paul
on-
Trust is taking him home.
Okay, on the premises anymore.
Pardon
He's
me?
not currently on the premises?
No, he's
Okay.
done.
Steve, do you feel safe?
Yeah, I feel perfectly safe,
Paul is pulling out right now.
but you better tell him that he should.
No,
You talk to me. Don't talk to me.
I live here and you live next to me. So you should tell your husband not to make good on those threats because it's not a good thing to do.
Steve. Oh, you called his wife a liar.
That's because you want to go into that.
No, I don't.
It's just
That's
it's the truth.
I think, all right, I think Terry wants to say a few words.
Read the email.
I would like to apologize to everybody. My husband has some health issues. And it's hard to control sometimes. He has a traumatic brain injury. He tends to do some unusual things. I've been with him for 43 years. I care for him and he cares for me. And I just want to apologize to the community and to this board for his behavior. And it will not happen again, and he will not be at another board meeting. My apologies. Again. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to continue with the election update, please. The ballots will be out between April 12th and April 10th and April 17th. There was a question about a drop-off box. We had discussed the possibility of a drop-off box at Station 3 like they used to do. There is now a requirement that it be supervised during business hours for a 3-week period. We cannot do that. It has to be secure under security cameras, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I will, I'm just throwing this out that our DEO, Sarah Shepherd, has a 24-hour secure drop box at her office in Littleton. And that will be where if people don't feel comfortable mailing their ballots in, they have a 24-hour time that they can go drop them physically into her office. All this information will be posted by the 12th on the website, and she's waiting for my call to finalize the Dropbox location, and then she'll be sending information to us, which we will disperse to the community. I think that's everything. Steve caught an error in the number of residents, which she corrected right away. I'm enjoying working with Sarah Shepherd and her team. They're very professional. I do have, I asked her for an eligible elector. There were some questions last election, who actually can vote. I have handouts here. They will be included in the ballot information if anybody has a question on who is an eligible voter in this district. And that's all I have unless there are questions.
I have a question, Deb. This is Niffy. I wanted to understand if our DEO is able to track down voters who are registered up here, but their home is in a trust, or they are not landowners. Are we able to get all of those folks that are registered to vote up here and are eligible voters?
If you're registered and if you're registered, I asked her that specifically. If you have a trust, but you have to live on the property and be a registered voter. You cannot have property in trust and live outside of the district and be issued a ballot. Does that answer that?
But a landowner who personally owns it is able to still vote even if they live outside of the district.
No, they have to be, they have to occupy the property.
No, that's only if it's in a trust.
If it's in a trust, I'm sorry.
If they.
Yeah,
Okay.
if it's.
All right,
if it's
I'm
in-
clear on all of that, and she's able to get the eligible electors. Thank you.
Registered, a registered vote.
Right. Did did that answer? it?
Renters can vote too.
Yes, that answered my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, renters that are registered voters can also vote. That question came up last time. And I think she's very clear if the deadline, if you have not received a ballot, you will call her, they will get you one. They're very responsive. So all this information will be made available to all electors in the district. Okay. The attorney consultation update, that's you, Mr. Creech.
Yes, for reference, for those who are not aware, at the February 27th special meeting, a motion was passed to seek legal counsel to analyze the actions of Steve Green for actions related to executive session. This February 27th meeting had on the agenda an executive session agenda item to negotiate and to discuss the salary package for Chief Benson. Salary negotiations are considered to be executive session. They're not open to public discussion. The result of executive session is public information. Chief Vincent sent a proposal to the board to be discussed in executive session, and that proposal was released to the community. And that is a violation.
Of state law, yes, it is.
Individuals who believe that executive session is not true can come here after the meeting or email me, and I will give you the statute that relates to executive session. So I sought to protect the board by speaking with legal counsel. In my discussion with legal counsel, the first thing we decided is that we would have a Q&A session instead of a formal presentation or a formal fact finding from the attorney, and that was less costly for us to just sort of talk about what happened. The advice of the attorney related specifically to executive session is that no board member should ever email another board member any item that they do not want to be distributed to the public. That when we're going to move into executive session, we should bring a single copy of that item into executive session, pass it around and discuss it. So the advice from the attorney was, while violations of executive session occurred, this is how you can prevent it. In further communications about the idea of board members communicating with each other, the attorney advised me that there is no requirement that any individual board member communicate anything else to another board member except in public session. The attorney is aware also of emails that have been distributed. Those were discussed in our Q&A, and the advice of the attorney was for the board to pass a resolution stating that any and all emails from Steve Green from his personal and or GGFPD email are his individual personal advice. We're not taking that direction. That was the advice of the attorney. The attorney was very clear to let us know that official communication from any GGFPD communication media can be put the board in jeopardy. Not only legally, but as we've also heard, professionally and relationally with our partners. So on the advice of the attorney, I have drafted and presented to the board, and many community members are aware of this, a communications policy, and we'll move into that piece later. So that's the general conversation. Oh, one other thing that the attorney made certain that we were aware of. Individual board members who violate any federal, state, local, or district statutes, regulations, or bylaws are individually liable for their actions. The board could also be held liable if a pattern emerges and the board sticks their head in the sand and does nothing to try to address those types of things. So that is the advice that I received from our attorney.
Any,
Censorship.
no.
Yeah. Any further actions planned as a result of that?
Further actions from me personally?
No, around this subject, the subject of legal counsel, and you've had a conversation. Are there any
Sure.
further actions to?
There are some action items that I'm presenting tonight based on the attorney's device to help us really sort of clarify some email policies for the district. That's at least one immediate action from that, correct?
But no follow-up attorney or investigative actions at this time.
There's no investigation. We needed to seek legal advice because our board, a member of our board, violated the executive session. So there's no it was a Q&A on what we needed to do.
The executive session hadn't happened. So, are you going to read the letters from the community?
Concerning legal advice, we're talking about legal advice right now.
Are you going to read the letters from the community?
Point of order. What is the current agenda item that we're discussing? Can we limit our conversation to the present item on the agenda?
Is there any more discussion on this item about the communication that Mr. Creech had with a lawyer?
I have a letter I want to read.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's letters from Jan Snyder.
I'd like to just pause for a second.
Point of order.
Thing to do with this item on the agenda, Steve. No, it does not. We're talking about,
Obviously, you like
Violating.
everything that goes against you.
we're talking
including
about.
Point
violating-
of order, okay, Madam Chair, let me put my point of order in here. I do not believe that that letter, which I have read and which I will be read into the record because it was distributed to the board beforehand. I do not believe that it in any way pertains to the attorney action. Our bylaws state that we follow Robert's Rules of Order, which states that when a point of order is put forward, the president of that board will rule as to whether it is the action claimed is out of order. So I am putting forward that at this juncture, Steve Green reading this letter into the record is out of order, and I ask for your ruling on that matter.
Yes, that is correct. Do we need a motion?
No, that's it.
I'm ruling on the point of order that's out of order. It's not applicable to the agenda items, Steve. What part do you not understand? What don't you, I know. No more discussion on this agenda item.
This is ending your investigation with the lawyer. This is it, about the end of it then?
It was just the advice.
I have not investigated anyone. No investigation has occurred.
So this is the end of it then.
This is the.
No more money spent on lawyers.
Unless he screws up again.
I didn't screw up the first time.
Hey, no.
And the point of order.
Point of order.
All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which was added, and it's a communication policy. Again, that's you, Chris.
Yes. Based on the advice of our attorney, and on review of our email communication policy, which prior to today was non-existent, I have put forth a communication policy to the board to discuss, to ratify, to modify, and to do whatever with. I would like to first off say that in the idea of secrecy, putting an agenda item on a public discussion is the exact opposite of secrecy. I'd also like to point out that prior to tonight's meeting, I spent a little bit of time reviewing the Constitution of the United States, and I could not find any reference to the Golden Gate Canyon or the Golden Gate Fire Protection District's email policy and how that is a right for anybody to get a GGFPD email address. When we do not follow rules, when we do not communicate with our partners, with our community in ways that would be generally acceptable business practices, we are in jeopardy, period. And if we do not take action to prevent certain items from happening, then the board is negligent and we are further in jeopardy. There is not a rational organization in existence today that provides individuals with communication channels that does not have a policy that states how those communication channels can be used. This is not censorship. There is nothing in what I have presented that says any individual board member can't say whatever they want. There are guidelines about how they can do that, who they can do it with, and certain items of what they cannot do. That is what I have presented to the board. It has been distributed to many members of the community, and that's what I've brought to the table to discuss tonight.
May I ask, is this a discussion or is this an action to ratify a policy? And do you have a motion to put on the table?
Yes, I motion that we discuss, ratify, and approve a Golden Gate Fire Department email communication policy. The board has received this policy. Are there any individual line items? Are there any wordings? Is there anything that should be added?
Was
edited,
there
or
a
deleted?
second to that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Are you going to read it?
It's been
Our
distributed.
bylaws, yeah, it's been distributed. Our bylaws
Yeah.
say we do not have to read it. So I don't think in the interest of time, I'm going to read it word for word. Each board member has received a copy
Right.
prior to today.
And board members have distributed across the community as well. So we're going to go ahead and discuss real quickly, and I'm going to short circuit that discussion. I do know that there are some community comments that we need to read into the public comment period, which pertain to this, so that should still happen. Absolutely. There were a number of letters that were sent to Mr. Green and forwarded to the whole board. So he's required to present things to the board before they can be read into the record. That has been done, and he should motion, and I will second any of them in public comment that they be read into the record. And I'm pretty sure we'll do it. So anyway, short circuiting, a communication policy for our district will pass tonight. It's happening. So we, other members in the public can, talk to their blue in the face, but we must protect our district. And so a policy will pass tonight. I'm going to lay out, a couple of the points that are in that communication policy and some suggestions that I have for edits. And I would ask that folks try to, if they disagree with me, please state why they think my reason is a bad idea specifically. And I would really appreciate that. So we're going to start with the point that using the district email provided for all board-related business is required. I think that this should be done, and this is in no way any censorship or secrecy, because it protects the community. It's the exact opposite. It protects the community by ensuring board members cannot hide board business from a core request. They can't use their personal email addresses to plan and plot and scheme and do all sorts of things and hide it from the public. That is transparency. And I will state specifically that I asked Steve from my initial time on the board not to send board-related business to my personal emails because I believed he was attempting to do things in secret. If you want proof of that, I will gladly forward it to you. Because as I said at the last meeting, I don't do anything without proof. I'm an engineer. That's how we work. Okay. Point 2. Use of the district provided email for personal items is strictly forbidden. And I will state, it would be wrong for a board member to use a taxpayer funded email account to run their private business or their personal lives. If you believe that somebody on the board should be using their their board and taxpayer funded email in order to conduct their personal business for their own financial gain, please tell me you support that. And I will state for the record that Steve Green has used his board and taxpayer funded email for communications regarding his gem drilling business. If you want proof, I will send it to you because I do not state things that I don't have proof of. And tell me you think that he should be allowed to use his board email to run his business and that you object to that being a policy. That is not in any way an infringement on his freedom of speech. He can use his personal and business emails to conduct his personal business. Thank you. Point 3, automatic forwarding of emails must be approved by a majority vote of the board. The bylaws state that no individual board member can speak on behalf of the board or district without a majority vote. Auto forwarding to the community on communications creates the appearance of officially sanctioned statements. Nothing here prohibits a board member from individually forwarding any and all board emails to any human on earth. There is no censorship. There is no secrecy. Keep email discussions to a minimum. Email discussions are not available to the public in the same manner as our board meetings. So when we send a bunch of emails on our email system, transparency suffers because the discussion isn't happening in front of the people, and it requires you to send a core request to get that information. Point 5, refrain from copying members of the public in communication unless authorized to do so by the majority vote of the board. Again, the bylaws do not allow individual board members to speak on behalf of the board. This creates the appearance that these are official statements. Okay, so nothing here prohibits a board member from, again, individually forwarding anything they want to any human on earth. No secrecy, no censorship. Point 6, avoid copying all board members unless the communication is a call for agenda items, a request for a meeting change, or to schedule a special meeting. Our open meeting laws have been interpreted such that email communication between 3 or more board members constitutes an open meeting. So we would be in violation If we keep sending emails to all of the board members, we'd be in violation of Colorado open meetings laws. We need to protect our district by not breaking these laws. Somebody please argue with me that that is a thing that should be banned by our policy.
Okay,
Point 7,
I thought you asked for an argument.
excuse me. Point 7, please
Uh,
be
Nippy,
respectful.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, could I interject? You did
Yes.
ask for someone to argue their point on what you just said. Steve
Oh.
Green wants to argue that point.
Sorry, let me provide clarification. I wanted to finish making my statement and then allow for the argument to come out, if that's fair. And I can put some of my statements in the chat if you don't remember them exactly, so that they can be read back, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. So point 7 was be respectful and communicate as an ordinarily prudent person in a like position would do under similar circumstances. I do take objection to this point because it may be construed as censorship or restricting someone's freedom of speech. So what I would ask is that we could change that to something like, I agree that I'm individually responsible and personally liable for any communication sent from my board email in violation of the bylaws, board resolutions, and any applicable law from any applicable jurisdiction. The point of that would be to protect us from liability as a district and protect the taxpayers from getting sued because an individual board member decided to send out stuff that was inappropriate. And
Not as an argument, but just as a request. I don't type that fast. If you will, please send that via the chat so I can put it into the document.
You got it.
Thank you, sir. Received.
And received.
All right, thank you.
I would just ask, do you have any additional feedback on insert the following auto signature into email settings and include this on every
No,
email?
that's absolutely like great. Yep, that's good to go.
Okay,
There's a lot of standard disclaimers that like every organization has out there as their tags. So I think that's great.
You have more, Nippy?
That's all I got for now.
Okay. So we're going to continue a discussion. Are we in discussion mode?
yes.
Well, being an independent thinker myself, I disagree with all this. First Amendment right is being violated.
Anybody else?
Yeah, if you ask for somebody to argue with them, so I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
This is from the Office of Legislative Legal Services. They are the office that does legal analysis for the Colorado General Assembly. And this is from the Supreme Court of Colorado. It says, based on open meeting laws as a whole and prior decisions, the Colorado Supreme Court held that a meeting must be part of a policy-making process to be subject to the requirements of the open meeting laws. Let's quote. And that a meeting is part of a policy-making process if it concerns matters related to policy-making function of the public body holding or attending the meeting. So there must be a, quote, meaningful connection between the meeting itself and the policy-making powers of the public holding or attending the meeting. In order to be, would somebody please ask the lady in the back of the room to hold the voice down? I'll start again since she's sticking her tongue out at me.
Julie.
2-year-old can get 2-year-old.
Julie, you're out of order.
Out of order.
This is about email. You can, if you're not making decisions, you can talk to as many people as you want.
How does you get that out
I've
of that?
sent it to you multiple times. Yeah.
Well, read that again. It doesn't have anything
Hey,
to do-
well, quick question for Steve. If we were to modify that bullet point to clarify, like, hey, anything that could be construed as policy meeting or policy making should not be sent to the whole board.
He's
Sorry,
talking.
whatever would put us in liability according to this decision that you're sharing, if we modified that bullet point accordingly, can we just change it? We'll change it.
See, the liability is not sharing and being transparent with the public. That's what puts you in liability.
Steve, I'm saying we should not email all 5 board members or more than 3 board members if it's going to put us in liability of not having an open meeting. You have provided the text and the opinion that says, here is how you would violate the law. So let's just add that into our policy. So that we're saying, hey, don't use your email to send 3 or more board members stuff that could be construed as policy making. That's it. You've provided the right clarification. Thank you.
No,
I'll take my second turn to talk now. Thank you.
Okay.
I thank you for reading into that.
I didn't read it all. I was interrupted.
Would you like to continue reading, sir?
No, I've been interrupted.
Thank you for reading the portion of the document that you did. I had a conversation with this district's legal counsel. This is the information that they recommended that we use. I'm quite certain that they're aware of any other opinions that are out there. So thank you for fixing a few things here, Niffy.
Anything further?
Communication policy says that emails are subject to public disclosure. So please keep these emails to a minimum. And keep them civil,
Okay.
respectful.
Is that a request to add? I'm sorry.
Keep your ethics. You have good ethics here.
You think-
I'm sorry, Dave, are you requesting to add additional topics? Because
No.
those are not written in this, the
No,
communication
no.
policy that was sent to you.
You're suggesting what we do.
Add some additional items to this document.
I'm just telling you that we gotta start keeping things a little more civil, and your emails are subject to court requests. So all this stuff is a waste of time.
Dave, if, I don't know if we can read that again. I agree that 0.7, like being civil or respectful, I don't agree with having that as a bullet point. So what I sent was an alternative that would just say, hey, this is how we protect our district, but I don't want to in any way infringe on any of the board members' rights to say or email whatever they want. And you don't have to be civil or respectful. That is a reflection on you as an individual. And that's why that language that I added was, as an individual, I am personally liable for the things that I send. That's all.
So basically, he's agreeing with you. Yes.
And
Qualifying it to an individual being responsible. What happens is with bad emails that go out under a board,
Well,
listen to me, Dave, bad emails reflect on the whole board.
I agree with that.
So an individual needs to take responsibility. Is there any more discussion before we?
I'll just say that officially I have removed the conversation that dealt with, I don't remember what the words were. I don't want to undo what I've typed, but I've removed the statement requested by Niffy and I have updated it with what he suggested.
Are we ready?
So I will motion for the board to accept the 3/16/2023 update to the Golden Gate Fire Department email communication policy with the one change recommended by Niffy.
Can I ask for clarification on the open meetings law? Do we need to, did you have anything from someone else that said that it was, you know, contrary to what Steve's opinions, it's not Steve's opinion, the opinion that Steve brought forward from the, was it the Colorado Supreme Court, Steve?
I gave it to,
I got it.
yeah.
Okay.
By the office of.
Legislative legal service.
Part of the legislature of the state of Colorado.
So maybe we just amend that section on refrain from sending emails to 3 or more board members that would be considered a violation according to this opinion, and then we can just cite the opinion and put a link to that website.
It says it's not a violation.
Steve.
Is that what you want, Niffy?
Yes, Steve, in that opinion, it states what would be a violation. It says we're allowed to email 3 or more board members, except if it's about policy making and decisions. So that's what I'm saying.
You didn't read the whole thing, nor did I. Read it later. And I sent it to you before, Naveen. It says that if you're not like voting and rubber stamping issues outside of the public view, all voting and that they call rubber stamping, which would mean we agree via email to approve something, and then we show up at a meeting and just approve it. That's rubber stamping. That's
Steve,
not allowed.
I said, point to this policy and say, we won't do what this policy says we should not do. I am agreeing with you. Do you not understand that?
Whatever you want.
Ready to proceed? Pretty, just what,
Actually, I'd like to just add one more, if we're gonna read things. I'm gonna read from the SDA Board Member Manual. The SDA is an organization that provides guidance to special districts. We are a special district. We're a member of the SDA to get guidance on their interpretation of laws, regulations, and rules. They are not a government body. They're an advisor that this board has chosen to accept. They're a counselor to this board.
And they're hired.
Email policy. Any district that operates or maintains an electronic mail communications must adopt a written policy on any monitoring of electronic mail communications and circumstances under which it will be conducted. The policy must include a statement that employee emails may be public record and may be subject to public inspection. Arguably, if a district utilizes text messaging for district businesses, they should adopt a similar policy. We communicate via email. Our board needs to adopt an email communication policy, according to the SDA, according to our attorney.
we have a motion on the floor?
The motion has, yes, we deterred from the motion. I motion to accept Golden Gate Fire Department email communication policy update 03/16/2023 as updated through this conversation.
And is that it? I
That's the motion.
second that.
Motion to vote.
Call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
Three ayes, 2 nays. It passes. All right, Mr. Primer, you had a question about the website.
Yes,
How much we're paying?
how much you paying and who's doing it?
I have an answer.
Oh,
You ready?
finally.
We're paying approximately $147 a month to Novell, which is a company run by Walt. Last name,
Brian,
and he is the webmaster. He covers he keeps it secure. You have to have a secure website.
Yep.
And that's what we pay him to do. He is the webmaster.
We
He does
pay,
not,
we pay $375 a year for our website,
who's that?
Wix.
Oh, your own personal website?
No, it's a Wix website. They,
This is for your storage units,
for our
right?
storage unit, for our two businesses, we
Oh, okay.
have two
Okay.
accounts.
Yeah, we have explored other possibilities, but we just haven't pursued other possibilities.
You're overpaying a lot.
For right now, that's the only, for right now, that's what we're paying.
So
And until we can come up with the Colorado State maybe free website, but it's gonna take somebody doing research. All right, does that answer your
I've
question?
already offered all this, and it would have been free, and websites cost
I
$120 a
haven't-
year.
I haven't
First 3
seen-
years is free.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any paper on that.
They're all
Does that answer your question, Dave? For now,
paying way too much.
well, what was paying, so, yeah, we are paying a bit too much, so I think we need to get that handled.
Dave, would you take on research and find us a different solution?
I can give you the name of the people we use.
I'm not going to take on the, will you take on the research and provide a specific proposal to the board to make a change?
I can look into that.
Thank you.
okay, great, bring it next meeting. Under new business, there've been 2 gentlemen here, very patient. They're with Backcountry Broadband. They're gonna make a brief presentation But I do ask that any questions or discussions concerning their presentation be held so we can get through the rest of the agenda, which is almost at the end. But they'll be sticking around, so if somebody wants to talk to them after. We've got maybe 10 minutes, no more.
Stick to some bullet. We got it.
Okay, introduce yourselves, guys.
Yeah, we both throughout.
Okay, introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see a few familiar faces here. So when Laura and I moved out of the canyon about 3 years ago, we pretty quickly found that the internet situation up here is a little challenging to say the least. So we quickly set foot on a mission to improve that situation. We ended up setting up a test network that's been very stable and very reliable for the past 2 years. So firsthand, we know the impact that this can have on our lives, having good internet versus not, having good communication versus not, and the lifestyle improvements that come with it. You know, and this is not an isolated story. We've talked to plenty of our neighbors, can't work from home. They're not able, you know, some of their friends and family might not want to visit them. Even some that during COVID, they had to go sit outside the library with their kids to do schoolwork. We're changing that. I'm Andrew Doney. I've worked for some small companies that you might not have heard of, like Verizon and F5 Networks. I have some of the background of building service provider grade networks that have high capacity, futuristic technologies. And essentially the backcountry broadband mission is to bring that experience to our community. We're building a fiber optic network here in the canyon that has some significant overlap with the GGFPD district. Basically, our mission is to serve underserved and unserved communities and improve the lives of as many people as we can. We're a local company. We're here, we live here, we work here. We're over on Daydream Road. There's 3 things that happen of the board and to work with the fire department on. Number 1, we want to donate service, our top tier gigabit service, to all 3 firehouses, basically giving you the best. Second, we want to donate and improve the wireless network at each of those locations. Basically bring a business class network for free on us, our labor, our materials, to improve the lives of everything. We even saw tonight there were some issues with Starlink here. We want to make it so that we never have to worry about hosting any event ever again. And basically, you're welcome to come look at the equipment over here. For our last ask, we want to work with the fire department to use a little bit of space in some select firehouses to accelerate time and bring some of the service to some of the fire stations quicker. And all it takes is those 2 small devices.
So why you? Why us? That's probably a question you're having right now. Why? May sound cliche coming from a business that we care about community. Probably not something you hear from businesses, but small business, company, locals, people that care. My name's Aaron Wayne, and I've been involved in many community projects, supporting charities throughout the state, fire departments, hospitals, Ronald McDonald House. I have a passion for helping. We have a passion for helping. The first thing that comes to mind as an anchor for the community, firehouse. We grew up in a town of 150 people on the riverbanks of the Mississippi. We all went to the fire departments where we had our pig roast. You know, that's what we did. That's the anchor of the community, in my eyes. We have a background as first responders. We have friends, family, wives that are policemen, firemen, nurses. We have passion for it. We come from it. You know, we're fully aware of the importance of reliable and high quality communications. It's not good if you can't reach the people that you need help from. Who's gonna save your life? You will. Who's gonna pull the cat out of the tree? You will.
I'll be all right. Wow. Give me a lot of credit.
You gotta make that communication there. My wife is a nurse for Children's Hospital. She's a neurology nurse, and she works within a 7-state region. She's actually a single point of contact for NES calls. I don't know if you've ever dealt with NES calls, but they're fun, very interesting. And I constantly hear her complaints. Children's Hospital has a 2-call policy. When they're working with patients, they can't get hold of them after 2 calls, they stop that first communication out. And I hear all the time parents calling and they're frantic. They can't reach anybody and they're driving to small businesses in small towns in Montana and in small gas stations or libraries in Albuquerque just to find a signal, to make calls to get help for their family. Communication is a problem. The Golden Gate Canyon is notorious for bad stuff. I was actually trying to text my wife earlier. We had a little Starlink issue earlier here. We aim to solve that. Solve some of those issues that you have that are here. With all the hurdles it's going to take to run high-speed fiber through the community, it's going to take a local community-minded team to us really drive that and do it. I'm built pretty thick. I can walk up and down hills all day dragging wire. Spent many years doing it. You've all heard of the big names, CenturyLink and Comcast, just to name a few. Don't want to hurt your feelings, but they probably don't care about you. There's not a lot of people here. Density doesn't exist in this canyon to bring a big corporation to run fiber here. So you're stuck with what you have till now. We're here. Ultimately, this is a way to just improve the greater community of the Golden Gate Canyon. Let's make it better. We can do it. Monetarily, it's a free service. And it's going to free up whatever funds you're currently spending at the firehouses to be used in a more critical areas of need. That's the offer. For service for you, better service for everybody.
To take a moment, just imagine all the potential of this technology. Right, we can run some interactive events. We can do some better recruiting efforts, live stream some events and get some of the younger folk on board. Have reliable ways to run fundraising events and take donations. Have security cameras that we can rely on and look for any kind of issues. You know, we don't have to wait to go down to the station and see the recording. So
we were actually talking earlier about the propane situation. First thing that popped in my head was, remote sensing. Easy. Plug it into your tank. Covered.
And I can
Check it on your phone. Oh crap, we're almost out of propane.
Side Raspberry Pi project and should be good. But anyway, I think there's tons of potential with this. And at very least, you'll be getting the best service for nothing. And I think that's a very good proposal just from the get-go. To summarize, what we're trying to do is bring consistent, high-speed, high-capacity, future technology to all the firehouses. And we want to do it in a business-grade manner, future-proof, right? You don't have to worry about any kind of event you'll ever have to run inside or out ever again. And so in summary, we're trying to do three things. We want to work with you to donate our service, top-tier gigabit service. We want to upgrade the wireless networks so that we can run events reliably. We want to try to work with you to trade some space to bring this to everyone, the firehouses and the local communities faster, and accelerate time. Thank you.
This is the space we would need.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are moving into public comment next.
Deb, could I-
so let's just go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I want to hold public comment for a second. I have one more motion to add.
Oh, okay.
Because we ratified and accepted the communications policy, I
Right.
emailed it to each member of our board and both chiefs. And I would like to motion that we have a 7-day deadline to return the communication policy signed.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Second.
I will second that. I will second that.
Will it result in immediate deactivation of the email account if it's not returned on time?
Yes, because in order to maintain or receive an email account, an
Sounds good.
individual user must sign.
Okay.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Two opposed, all, motion passes. Okay. Moving forward to public comment. Yes, Dave.
One question to our visitors.
Sure, yes.
In addition to the offer of service to the 3 firehouses, would you, if the Grange is interested, would you do?
Oh, yeah, Terry and I have been
the
talking.
Same Grange offer here?
Yes, yes,
All right.
we absolutely.
Because that will cover the vast majority of that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as we bring it down to the firehouse here, we're gonna work with the branch to get that. All right.
Thank you.
Are we discussing the backcountry proposal further, or was it just that presentation and we're moving on to public comment?
Yeah, we're moving. It was one point of clarification.
One point.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then for those who are on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, I would ask that you please raise your hand and please wait to be called on or type your message into the chat panel and state, please read. Thank you.
What's the cost going to be? Did you say that?
Oh, we did not. For the firehouse, it's gonna be free forever. So, but we're gonna have a range of service options from the budget conscious to the people that don't want anything less.
Less than what?
Nothing less than that.
Well, what would, like currently I get about, I think it's 6.5 megabytes.
Yeah, so gigabit service is 1,000.
Question, so hold on, point of order. Are we
Wait.
discussing this further, or are we moving on to the public comment?
We are waiting for public comment. Are there any online on the Zoom?
Yeah, but no public comment on Zoom just yet, and
Okay.
the community is welcome to.
Anybody else public comment? Mary?
I would just like to say that it's long past time that this organization has a communication plan, so thank you.
Okay, we can go ahead and close the meeting. And then people that want to ask questions of you guys, because we're at the end of the line here. They can feel free to have an exchange with you if there's no more comments. I'm going to go ahead. The next regular board meeting is April 20th. 7 o'clock at Station 81 on Robinson Hill Road. And I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
So,